This is Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks from Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is your host, Mark Fricks.
Well, hello again and welcome to another episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with me, your host, Mark Fricks. Excited to be with you today, and of course, joining us will be Mr. Tony Shore, our sovereign co-host.
Sure.
Tony, how are you today, my friend?
I am doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show. I love it. Good to see you today. I've been crazy busy the last week or so.
Crazy busy. I like that.
Yeah,
crazy busy.
Between my parents and my family and work and traveling for work, it's been nuts. January just flew by. How about you? You're busy. This is probably the busiest time of year for you.
You know,
it?
it's starting the second week of January, it gets pretty crazy. We've kicked back off teaching classes. I taught my first face-to-face class of the year about a week ago. Had a great turnout. It was about taxes in retirement, and so people are always concerned about that, and
especially this time of year.
Yeah, you know, that's a good
People
time to
think
teach
about
that.
taxes.
Mm-hmm, yep. So I got another live one coming up face-to-face here in about 3 weeks. Looking forward to that. I love the face-to-faces. And it's so funny after the class, even though we answer questions during the class, there's a line of people that want to talk to me and ask, well, what about this? And what, so of course we give the complimentary consultation to help those folks out as well. But a lot of fun, busy time of year. And I'll tell you what, Tony, I think we're going to get busier because I keep hearing about the economy and layoffs. And so we see in our business every time that the economy gets bad and layoffs occur, people get scared. They don't know what to do. Their 401ks are all of a sudden available. Do they spend them? Do they live on them? So we're consulting a lot about those situations. And so, we're here to help. If you're concerned about your portfolio, if you're concerned about getting laid off and what am I going to do to make ends meet, we've got some ideas for you. So, let us know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. And I think that it's important for people to work with a financial services professional like yourself, and you don't need to go it alone. That's the key.
Yeah, and it's not just about retirement. I mean, we work with people that are 30 and 40 that need to know how to get their kid through college, and so college funding, that maybe got an inheritance. What do we do now? I've never had any kind of money. Now I've got $300,000, and so it's all it's geared toward making it to retirement, but sometimes the road's a lot longer for some folks than others.
Some people just want to know how to invest, right?
It could be that too. So lots of different things like that. So, but anyway, got a great show today, Tony. It's called Your Retirement Roadmap. So we're going to kind of get back to basics. What is a retirement roadmap? And so we're going to be kind of talking about the components of that. And it's simpler than it sounds from a standpoint of a 30,000-foot view. Now, when you get into the weeds, it gets a lot more complicated. We have a lot of software we've developed, actually, proprietary software, and really just experience. I mean, people like working with somebody that's been through 8 bear markets, or and 6 recessions, and that's what I've been through. And so it's there's nothing really new. I hear the same thing every time. Oh, this is the worst it's ever been. Oh, really? Think about blank, or whatever. So anyway, so that's what we're going to get doing today. And so let's. I think I want to start with the 3 major issues we're trying to accomplish in a retirement roadmap. So this is really big picture here. So can you guess what the first one is?
The first one?
Yeah. You probably can. Okay, so what are we trying to solve? That might be a better way to put it. What are we trying to solve? There's 3 things we're trying to solve. Number one is
income for retirement.
Well, what if I live too long? That's problem number one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
what if I outliving your income?
That was an unfair question, but you said
your income, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
You said income. So what if I live too long? And so that's part one of the 3 things we're trying to solve. Number 2 is what if I die too soon? And this is especially important if you have a spouse, right? So if you die earlier Typically one Social Security goes away, the smaller of the two. Maybe you lose some pension money. Maybe they were sick, for 3 years in a long-term care facility or assisted living that drains some of the retirement. So that's the second big area that we're trying to solve. I mean, I think that makes good sense. And the third one is, I just touched on it. What if I get sick? And I don't mean a cold or flu. I mean something that either really drains your account or like a long-term care situation. And so those are really, if you put it all in one big bucket, those are the three things that we're trying to accomplish with a retirement roadmap.
Yeah, and so that's good. Yeah, at first I was gonna say have the first step is to have a plan, right? That's more of the solution to solving how to know that you're not going to run out of money in retirement.
Right. And I probably didn't ask that question appropriately. Is what are we solving first, and then then we get into what I call the 5 components of a real retirement roadmap. So, and these are the things that will begin solving these areas of what if I live too long, what if I die too soon, what if I get sick, and it's not just getting sick. Long-term care, that is a big deal, by the way, and I'm not advocating long-term care insurance here, but it's also, I mean, people don't think about this, but if you're a married couple, you're each paying between $165 a month or more for your Medicare Part B. And so that's $320, $330 a month you're paying, and that's today. That goes up every year. And if you make more money, that goes up as well. We got people paying $300 and $400 a month for their Part B.
Wow.
And that's without getting into your supplement, your Part D for drugs, your deductibles.
A lot of people who don't realize, they think, when I turn 65, my health care's covered because I'll have Medicare. They don't even think about, there's still monthly premiums, there's still deductibles, that you still have to have supplemental, and Medicare doesn't cover everything, right?
Right. And unless you buy a supplement that includes vision and dental, you don't have that. That's extra if you want to buy that supplement or come out of pocket with that. I think the last I heard is the average couple will spend $250,000 in their retirement years on those things, and that does not necessarily include long-term care. So it's got to be built into the budget. So again, the 3 major problems: what if I live too long, die too soon? What if I get sick? So
Yeah, that's the number one fear and the number one concern people have that you meet with right when they first come to you is outliving their money in retirement.
Absolutely. That's number one on the hit parade, as they say. That is the first thing, I say, what keeps you awake at night or what bugs you the most? And, do I have enough money to retire? I'm going to walk away from a paycheck and I don't know if I've got enough money, so that's when we start running those reports to see where they're at. And then we start talking about the 5 major components of a real retirement roadmap. So the first component you touched on in the very beginning, Tony, is income.
Yep.
Right? If you're walking away from a paycheck, what replaces it? Well, in the olden days, when the market was less volatile, they would just, take their 401k or IRA or whatever and just, get a little bit of money out every month. But if you do the math now, if you want to be assured of not running out of money, used to it was you could take out around 4% a year. Now it's down to 2.8%. Okay, so in order to get $30,000 a year in supplemental income to supplement your Social Security, you're going to need $1.1 million, and that is not even a guaranteed number. That's just what we estimate that you would need. Used to it was $750,000. So money has become less efficient according to Morningstar and their research. So there are ways to make that different. We got one tool. You only need $500,000 to produce $30,000 a year, and that's guaranteed for life. So if you don't have an income plan, then I'd worry too. I'd stay up at night as well, because you get the market losing 25% in 1 year, and you're taking out $30,000 a year. No, you'll be going back to work sooner or later. So that's the first component, is that income plan. Where is it coming from? Some people are blessed with a pension. That's great. That helps. But that's what we begin with. So that's component number one.
Sure.
The second component is liquidity. So, you want to have some backup money because guess what? The water heater is going to go out,
So an emergency fund.
Right. And maybe even something behind that. So we have a lot of folks, what we do is we'll have their checking. Then we'll have like a money market or savings. We have a money market that does fairly well. And some of the banks have a good one, whatever. But then the third bucket is like a really conservative type investment, maybe a municipal bond fund or a high yield fund that's totally liquid, but now we can make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% on that third bucket. Okay, so it's kind of a stacking or laddering type of situation, so that you don't get stuck with with lack of liquidity. Because think about this, Tony. If your liquidity is in the stock market, and again the stock market's down 25% or 56% like in 08, 09, and you have to dip into it for $30,000, you have really put a little, dug into your principal. So we kind of stack those buckets, so that you start with a very conservative like checking, savings, money market, bond fund, and then moderate, aggressive, so forth, so on. So
sure.
Yeah, so liquidity. And then the third component is growth. So after we've got those first 3 or 4 buckets, now we need 1 or 2 accounts that are growing. Why? Well, there's this little thing called inflation. And those savings and money markets and maybe even the bond fund don't keep up with inflation. They may give you a better return, but if inflation technically in my mind averages about 4%, they say 3.25%, but I think if you look back at 80 years, the way they measure it's closer to 4. So you need to be, some of your money needs to be growing in the market to keep up with inflation and taxes. And so it's again adding another bucket on the end of the row. Maybe one's a moderate growth, one's an aggressive growth for 20 years down the road, but you've still got to have some money growing. So
you have to take advantage of that compounding interest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about legacy at this point. I'm just talking about making sure you last, or your money lasts.
Yeah,
right?
that has to be the first priority before you think about leaving something. You have to make sure you have enough. Then look at what you can do to help others.
Absolutely. So we've covered income, liquidity, growth. The fourth major component of a real retirement roadmap is minimizing taxes. So, do we start doing some conversions to Roth? Do we develop some of these specially designed life policies that act like a Roth? Do we use maybe some municipal bonds or bond portfolios to minimize federal? What are we doing here? What bucket do we dip into?
So you're talking about maybe creating a tax-free bucket.
Or 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, so to have some money that will come out tax-free. And that's why you mentioned Roth, because that grows and then comes out tax-free.
Exactly. And so few people have contributed very much to Roths because they were not part of 401ks until the last few years.
Right.
And so where do most people save their money? Their 401k at work, their 403b, their 457, whatever, TSP. And so that Roth got neglected, but it's a powerful tool. Yeah. It's great to save a little bit of money this year because you put money in your 401k. But I tell you what, I want to save taxes for the 25 years I'm retired when I'm on a fixed income. So component number 4 is tax minimization. So really critical to the planning process.
And you mentioned another tool, obviously a Roth IRA for tax-free growth and savings. And then there are insurance vehicles where cash value policy can grow over time, and then you can take that money back out tax-free, right?
Yeah, we actually call those super Roths because, first of all, they're specially designed so the cash is the king, not the death benefit.
Right.
So we minimize the death benefit, maximize the cash growth, so that looks like a Roth, but what makes it a super Roth is it does include a death benefit. So if you start converting some of that money to one of these life policies and you die in a year, well, there's a $500,000 tax-free money that looks like a Roth that you leave somebody. So, and then it also
plus they don't have the same limits and rules
as Roths.
As Roths, right?
That's correct. And then, of course, the third leg of that stool is you can add a critical illness rider, which can cover long-term care type situations.
Huge.
So you're not paying for that unless you actually use it. 2 out of
every 3 people are going to need long-term care now, they say.
That's exactly right. So you've got that 3-legged stool that no matter what happens, those 3 major areas is, it's covered. So different tools. Be careful if you go out there shopping for one of those, because you need to work with a fiduciary. And number two, they need to understand how they work, or you're going to end up getting the wrong kind. So what's going to happen?
They need to work with somebody like yourself, is what you're saying.
Yeah. We know that, or make sure again that they're a fiduciary and that they're a retirement planner, not just an agent or an investment advisor or a broker or whatever.
Sure.
So, and then that fifth component is transfer of your estate. So again, how do you make sure not so much your spouse, that's fairly simple, but kids, grandkids, charities, whoever, make sure that money gets to them in a way that is, again, tax efficient and probate efficient. In other words, you don't want the high probate cost. You don't want, want to try to avoid using attorneys as much as possible, because they charge 2 to 6% of the size of an estate to settle probate. So we have several tools we can use to avoid probate. So that's component number 5 of a true plan.
That's huge. Well, great going over the first 3 steps and the 5 parts of the plan. That is a great start for a retirement roadmap, right? And that's what we're talking about here. Now, before we move on, let's take a moment to let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you if they have questions about this or want to get their own plan in place.
Sure. One of my favorite things is doing these complimentary consultations. So anybody that listens to the show, that attends a class, we offer this, and really it's just your time, 30 to 45 minutes to chat with me face-to-face, on the phone, via Zoom, whatever works for you, to talk about your worries, to talk about, hey, I'm concerned about this and that, and is this going to work, or maybe just have questions about retirement. And depending on how that conversation goes, we can also offer you a complimentary meeting to run reports for you, 6, 7, 8 reports to show you how to maximize Social Security, and to also show you what could trip you up, which is what we're going to talk about next. So what can trip you up? So if you're interested in that, couple of things, you can give us a call, 770-980-9262, or you can visit the website, masterplanretire.com. Just been recently redesigned, new videos, all of our podcasts can be linked there, our YouTube channel's linked there, but most importantly, right on the front page is a little green button that says schedule your appointment. You push that button, my calendar pops up, and I will be the one talking to you. I don't pass you on to another advisor here. I don't pass you on to the janitor here, or whatever. You talk to me, we chat, and I'll give you that time. So 770-980-9262 or masterplanretire.com.
All right. Well, and we've been talking about a lot of the key steps, and I know you can go into more detail, but and then also once you get through all that, then you start talking about things like legacy planning, estate planning, right, and money to leave for your family, because you don't want to leave them in a bad situation as well, right?
Right. And so that's how we kind of transition into the third area I wanted to talk about today. So we talked about the 3 major issues: living too long, dying too soon, getting sick. Yep. We talked about the 5 parts of a plan: income, liquidity, growth, tax minimization, and estate transfer. So the third area is, what are the major risks that we need to be concerned about? Well, that's what those reports will tell you. And so I have a list here of 15 major risk in retirement. Now, not all of them apply to everybody, but I'll mention some of the top ones. Number 1 would be, again, somebody passing away too soon.
Yeah.
Another one would be, coming bear markets. We know bear markets happen every 4 to 7 years. And a bear market is a market that goes into hibernation, and the average bear market drops 33%. Are you prepared for the next one? We're in one now. My clients were prepared. We have tools to mostly avoid bear markets, okay? So because my clients are retired and they can't afford losing 33% or whatever. So bear markets are a danger. A rise in taxes is a danger, because if you were getting $4,000 a month income and taxes go up by 15%, now you're getting $3,500, you took a pay cut. Do you take more out, or do you live on less? Guess what? Let's create a strategy if that's one of the risks that will affect you. Passing of a spouse. I don't think I mentioned that one. Legislative risk. What is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Changes in law, changes in tax law, changes
like
in Social Security.
2.0, yeah.
Yep. Social Security changes. Think about this, Tony. Every 2 years, we elect new House members. Every 4 years, we elect a new administration. Every 6 years, we elect a new Senate. So every 2 years, we have a change in Washington, right? And in between, you get senators and congressmen and everything else committing crimes, getting kicked out. So that's a changeover too. So it's a constant influx of new people coming in and out. And so legislative risk is huge. So we want to take that into account. Changes in Medicare, changes in health care. What about unforeseen needs of family? It could be parents all of a sudden need more care and they can't afford it and they have to come live with you. Your costs go up. Maybe your kids need help. Okay. And so, these are things a lot of people don't think about. Long-term care, we've already talked about. I'm looking at my list because there's so many of them, by the way.
Sure.
Inflation.
Oh, that's a big one. We can talk about the price of eggs.
Oh, man. Is that unbelievable? What, $8 for a standard Publix or Kroger dozen eggs or whatever. And don't even talk about the organic ones. They're like, what, $50? I don't know. That's per egg, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. We talked about longevity risk. We talked about passing of what about loss of a pension plan? Did you know there are some pension plans that are being cut while the people are retired?
Yeah. You think that's guaranteed money, and then all of a sudden some companies are like saying, oh, we can't afford to fund it anymore.
Or the union or whoever. Up in Pennsylvania, there was a major union that cut their pensions by like a third, and you're getting $1,000 a month. All of a sudden you're getting $660 a month. I mean, that's huge. They were interviewing 70 and 80-year-old people that got a cut in pensions. Change in marital status.
Yeah.
What if you get divorced? What if you get married, remarried or whatever? So that's just some of the major ones. I know we're getting close down to time here. There are 15 areas like that. And so the ones that are major for you, we'll run those reports and say, this is what's going to happen if taxes go up. This is what's going to happen if you lose your spouse. This is what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Right? Okay, so that's I think that is so eye-opening. And Tony, it's kind of like a doctor visit. What does a doctor do when you go see a new doctor? They take your history and they run tests. So we run tests. Let's know what your plan of care needs to be. Let's know what we need to work on, as opposed to let me invest your money and we'll get better return than the guy next door or the girl next door. Yeah, okay, fine. What about all the other areas that you can get messed up in? And so that's what a true retirement roadmap looks like.
Well, and that's good. That's the important part there. I think the underlying message to get a start is work with a financial professional like yourself, a fiduciary, an advisor, and a trusted independent advisor, and get a plan in place. Work with that advisor to get a plan in place. And I think that's where our listeners can really win with this. So before we go, Mark, let our listeners know about the consultations you're offering.
Right. Complimentary consultations, again, to go over your questions, your answers, your concerns, 770-980-9262 or masterplanretire.com and push the green button. My calendar pops up, and we will confirm that with you and have a great time chatting. And let's find out what's going on in your life and your story and go from there.
All right. Sounds great, Mark. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with our host, Mark Fricks.
So glad you joined us today. And if you missed the radio show, of course, you can always find it on podcast, probably in your pocket right now because it's on all the major podcast services and YouTube under Retirement Roadmap Radio on YouTube as well. Otherwise, until we see each other again, plan well and prosper. Have a good day, everybody.